Hello there everyone, and this is Resident Weavile, and today I wanted to talk about Resident Evil Reverse again. Since I did it in the last video, it's been a couple weeks. We have actually gotten a couple of updates, so I just wanted to talk about how I think the game's going. There's still a lot of issues with it, but we have had 2 updates so far, which is big. It's definitely good to see that Capcom is giving support, but I think it's a bit early to say that, yeah, they're going to go all in on this for a reason. I'll get into that in a second. But what have they given us so far? So in each update, we got a new character, which seems good. And in the first one, we got a new map, which is the village. I said that in the first video that, hey, why are there 2 maps? We definitely could have gotten more. Why don't... I gave a bunch of options. The village was one of them. We did get the village. So that is definitely a good thing. But the 2 characters we got... they're just members of Chris's squad from Village. We got Tundra first, and then we got Night Howl most recently. And man, it just seems so lazy. I've seen other people complain about this in reviews that they've put up on Steam and stuff, but in different comments. But it just feels so easy that they look so similar. Their personalities aren't that fleshed out. I don't think anyone really cares about them. They can be pretty strong, but overall they feel kind of underwhelming to play. I feel like they just are like, oh, we need to add more characters. Let's do the easiest thing, just add Chris's squad. If they added the whole squad and half the roster is just his squad, that seems kind of lame, if you ask me. Also, what I mentioned earlier about, yeah, it seems cool we're getting these updates, but there might be more to it than that. Because they came out so soon, I think all this stuff was pretty much done already. Maybe almost completely done or completely done, and they just decided, hey, let's wait and then give it out to people so it looks like we're updating the game. I hope that's not the case, but it seems like at least the village and probably Tundra, which came out first, were probably done already, and they just didn't put it in the game when they launched it. So we'll have to see how that goes. There is a new update coming out on the 14th. That's good to hear, so next week we'll get that. It's supposed to be giving us another character. We don't know who yet. I imagine it's probably going to be one of Chris's squad, but I really hope not. And we're getting the first new monster, so that's cool. We're going to be getting a Lycan. I think the Lycan is probably going to be a single virus capsule monster, and that's cool. It definitely, I didn't think about last time about them adding more monsters, but definitely that's something they should do. I think, though, when they add the monsters, they should have players pick monsters that they can turn into, because if they, let's say down the road they're still updating the game, we have like 5 or 6 Virus Capsule 1 and Virus Capsule 2 monsters. If someone really wants to play as like Jack for Virus 1 or really wants to play Nemesis for 2, having like 5 or 6 monsters makes it just so much harder to turn into them. So I think they should let us pick 2 monsters for each if we end up having a lot. That way people can play what they want, and it also makes it a bit more interesting when you kill an enemy. As a human, you don't really know what they'll turn into, because right now it's like, oh, you know, they could turn into these set things. If I saw them pick up one capsule, oh, if that's it, they probably will turn into Jack or the Hunter, so that's what I have to deal with. But with like 5 or 6, it becomes a little bit more difficult. So I hope that they add that if more monsters get added in the future. Other monsters they could add, I wasn't thinking of this before, but if they're going to do this, they totally should add Lady Dimitrescu for a level 2 capsule. But it just makes so much sense. She's really big, like Nemesis and the Tyrant, so that theme gets going. She could be very powerful. She probably attack with her claws. I don't know what her abilities would be. Maybe some sort of like spear attack with her claws or something. I don't know. For Virus 1, they could add any of the daughters. That would be pretty interesting. That would work. They could also add the Ivy maybe, or the Liquor as a level 1 capsule. That would be pretty cool. For other level 2s, I don't really know, because they already added they already added the Tyrant. They already added Nemesis. If they add Lady Dimitrescu, she would probably be the first one, I would assume, if they're going to add another level 3. So if they're basing it off of all the newer games since 7, I don't really know what else they could add. I guess they could add like maybe I can't think of anything. If you guys can think of anything, let me know. But I can't think of anything. I can only think of level 1 capsule monsters. I guess they could add G. Yeah, that would make sense. Add like the first G form. Yeah, that's probably the one that they could add. But for characters, like human characters, aside from Crystal Squad, forget about them. Why don't we have, Carlos? That would probably be one everyone would love. Everyone loves Carlos. He would make the most sense. Add maybe Nikolai. That would probably be another good one there. You could add other people. Add Marvin. That would be pretty good, I think. They have a lot of options, and they don't have to just stick to Chris's squad, and I really hope they don't do that, but who knows. Anyways, the village as a map, pretty good. It might actually be the best of all of them because it kind of feels the least cramped, and it isn't really like the other two where it's like, here's one side, here's another side, and then there's just an area in the middle, and that's it. It kind of doesn't feel like that in any sense. You kind of got one side that has some houses in different areas on either side of it. Then you have really close by to it, you have the big like church sort of section in the village. Then the middle has the well and stuff, but instead of being just half middle, it's kind of more like a triangle, and that makes it a lot more interesting to play than the other maps, I think. The balance is still completely messed up in this game, I have to say that. As I've played it more, some things seem a little better than I first thought, especially with the characters. I did say Ada's the best character, Claire is probably the worst. Ada's still the best character, there's no doubt about that, but I don't think Claire's the worst character. I think that was a little bit too harsh. I've played Claire a lot more. I actually really enjoy playing Claire. I think the worst is probably Night Howl or Hunk, and it really sucks to say that Hunk is one of the worst characters because he's so cool. But man, he just doesn't do as much compared to the other characters because he can cloak himself, and then he has his assassinate ability with his knife, and it does do a lot of damage and it stuns an enemy. The issue is you have to do it basically right in front of them, and it just puts you in way more danger than it needs to. The cloak ability is only really useful against human enemies when they can't really see you as well if you're far away. Against the monsters, they can't lock onto you, but they can just wail away at you with melee attacks. So it's kind of useful, but not as much as you'd think. Tundra... No, not Tundra, sorry. Tundra's actually pretty good, but Night Howl is... Night Howl, he has two gadgets. His passive gives him damage resistance when he's near the gadgets, which can be kind of useful, but the issue is that one of them is this area of effect where humans lose their reticles, monsters can't lock onto you, and everyone gets slowed down a little bit and disoriented in it. The issue is it makes you play in that one area, so that can be kind of detrimental. The other one's a little drone that will shoot enemies that are nearby. It's kind of cool, but I feel like it just doesn't... never noticed its impact. Also, the other problem with both Tundra and Night Howl is they just have the same suppressed rifle that Chris has. So they're also less interesting because of that. It's fairly good because it's suppressed, so it's a little bit harder to hear maybe, but it doesn't really matter in this sort of game. So yeah, Claire is definitely way better than I thought. She has a lot of health. She can run around monsters very easily with the stun. I really like her passive, where she probably is the best standard weapon compared to the personal weapon. Because she has the quick draw army. Her passive is whenever she dodges, it just completely reloads it. So if you're running away from somebody, you just shoot all 6 into them, dodge out of the way, so it's harder for you to get hit, then just do it again. And it works pretty well, actually. Yeah, so I definitely think I was a little bit harsh on Claire. Night Howl and Hunk are definitely worse than her. Aside from that, there's some really weird issues still with connection sometimes. It's definitely not as bad as it was at first. I've noticed it a lot less, so if that is getting fixed in the background, that's pretty cool. There aren't really any patch notes for the updates. They just say, hey, this is what's coming. So I do notice losing connection in games a lot less. So that's definitely a good thing. It did happen once here, and this happened when I was trying to load into a game. When I was searching for one, it wasn't even like a minute into a match. So that was kind of strange, but it does happen a lot less. I do wish they would give us patch notes, but I don't know if Capcom's even going to bother about that. It'd be nice, though. The other thing is they really seem to be adding in skins and stuff that you can pay for. I've actually noticed some people with them. I don't know why you'd buy them. I feel like that's kind of just a waste. Because does anyone really care about that in this sort of game? Maybe some people do, but I see no point in buying them at all. Same thing with the battle pass. Like, why buy it? Like, you don't really get anything for it. Also, your elo doesn't really matter in this sort of game. I feel like people just don't care. The elo is messed up though. That I didn't mention it the first time, but it is totally messed up. You only gain it when you get in first or second, really. If you come in third or fourth, it seems like most of the time you just stay the same. You gain 0, you lose 0. But if you come in fifth or sixth, you will lose like 3 or 4 times the amount you would gain from coming in first or second. So if you can come in first or second for 2 or 3 games in a row and then just come in 5th place and then end up with less elo than you did earlier. It's so annoying. I want to know if anyone's even gotten up into the top 2 elo tiers, because I've probably played this game a lot more than most people have, and I'm only in like around 2100, and that seems to be where it stays. That's just how it goes. I really want to know. But yeah, that's just busted too. That needs to get fixed. Man. Back to the characters though. Chris is definitely a lot better than I thought too. Ada's the best character. It's ridiculous how good Ada is. She can just, if you play against a good Ada player and you're playing a monster, I just ignore them. Don't even bother going after them. You're gonna die. Ada can just solo monsters on her own if they know what they're doing. As long as they have the stamina to dodge, forget it. Because the issue, I think, comes from her crossbow being so powerful, being so quick to reload, where if another character wants to shoot at a monster coming after him, they kind of have to almost come to a standstill to aim and then fire. And most people have automatics, except for Leon. Leon's probably the one exception with the shotgun. But with anyone with an automatic, they kind of just have to move at a crawl, just unload into the enemy, and by that point, they have to waste the dodge or they're going to get hit. Where an Ada can just shoot once, keep running, and then just turn around, shoot once. They barely lose any time. It's crazy. They have a stun with the kick, can jump up and fire the crossbow shot that does a lot of damage and stun. Yeah, if you come up against a good Ada player and you're a monster, I'd say just ignore them. Don't waste your time. As Chris, though, Chris is probably the one counter to Ada, and Chris is also very good at killing monsters. I didn't think about this last time, but Chris's Indomitable Spirit ability, he cannot die as long as that's lasting. He can go down to 1 HP, but he will never die. He also can't be knocked back, so forget it. If Chris comes up against an Ada, all they have to do is instantly activate Indomitable Spirit and they will win. No doubt about it. So yeah, it's still really unbalanced. Everyone else just feels way worse than Ada or Chris, even though Claire's pretty fun, Leon's pretty fun. Everyone else kind of sucks in comparison, if you ask me. I'm glad to see the game still being updated. I really hope, as I said before, that they don't just add all of Chris's squad members as the first characters. But I'm really hoping Capcom does some good stuff with this game. I don't know why I'm still playing it. It's still a terrible, messy game, but something about it just makes me keep playing. So let me know if you've still been playing this game, if you're looking forward to anything that's getting added in the game. And yeah, thanks for watching. I'll see you next time.